All right. Hi, everyone. So my name is Fabian Torres, and I'm conducting our third student spotlight interview for SHPE-UIC over winter break this time, so holiday edition. And here we have with us like third year Jose Cruz. He's an electrical engineer at UIC, and he's going to be telling us a little bit more about how maybe he got into engineering and what his story is basically to get where he is today. So take it away. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Just tell us a little more about yourself, Jose.
Yeah, so my name is Jose Cruz, third year electrical engineering student at UIC. I'm currently chair for the mentorship program through SHIP as well. So that's me in a nutshell. That, as well as part of IEEE, a lot of other student orgs, work full time, school full time. Me.
Yeah, sounds good. So I was gonna say let's talk a little bit more about you. Just to get started. So from my understanding, you're a transfer student coming to UIC, right?
Yeah. So I'm a transfer student. So a little bit of a background story to this whole journey. Started off at community college before I went to four-year university. I found myself very uninterested in what I was doing. I was actually doing nursing, thought about doing med school, realized 2 years later that that was not what I wanted to do. That was not for me. Very bored, very uninterested. So then I remember having breakfast with my parents one day and telling them, hey, like, I have no idea what I want to do. I think I want to go this route, which was engineering. But I was really, really terrified of those like Calc 1, Calc 2, Physics 1, Physics 2. I was just like, I don't know if I'm smart enough to do that. I gave myself like a year to like test out the water. And then somehow I'm here. I'm a third year at UIC and I've made it this far. So, 3 more semesters to go.
I mean, that's the spirit, man. You take it day by day. It's
It really
definitely a
is.
beast to take on. But I mean, that's sort of interesting, like, cause um, cause I meet lots of people that are in engineering, and they usually have the two sides. They have the side where they were full on, they were gonna go to be something in STEM. They were definitely going down that STEM route, or the other end of the spectrum, which is where I feel like you come from, where you're like it's a curveball. You come from completely different field, and you end up here somehow, and then you end up maybe liking what you do, and it's totally different, but you still like it. But yeah, that's awesome to hear. I
Yeah,
was
you
gonna
typically hear
say,
like engineers dropping out of engineering to do something else that they're more passionate about, but it's all
oh,
different from them to come into engineering and be like, I want to do this. I want to go through this torture. And I'm like,
seat yourself. There's plenty of open seats.
honestly.
But yeah, I mean, like, I was gonna say, from your community college, where'd you go? Did you go to Harold?
um, so I live like on the far south side, like Inglewood area, Marquette Park area.
Yeah.
So I actually went through probably every single campus. Um, the thing about community college is that there isn't really a hub for engineering. Um, and when I was doing nursing, I was obviously in Malcolm X, and then you have to just go wherever your classes are offered, really. So you have no say what campus you're really at for the most part. So once I started doing engineering, I realized Calc 2, Calc here, there. I ended up going basically to every single campus you could think of, except for the one that's like far north in Truman. But I spent most of my time at Daly towards the end of the my time at community college, and that's when like I took engineering seriously, and that's where I met a lot of the people that I'm transferred over with to UIC. That's where I met some of my few mentors, some of my friends, and that's where I finished it basically.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that actually. That you kind of got to jump around, but that's interesting. I know that like yeah, because I know a lot of community colleges are starting to kind of get more into the engineering game, where they offer like some classes specifically suited towards maybe electrical engineers, or like maybe like a couple like introductory like coding classes, or they offer physics classes and math classes, but they don't strictly have like an engineering like routes or like a grassroots kind of program to kind of
Right.
prepare students specifically for that. So
Because I
like
know Truman now does have something like that because they have a ship. chapter at Truman. Daly used to
Oh,
have a SHPE chapter as well, maybe 5, 10 years ago. Um, but because of the lack of it being a hub, it just kind of started dying out at some point. And that's when me and a couple people that were at Daly, we decided to do the engineering club for the last we were there, where it was basically like a SHPE junior, you can think of it that way, where we were starting to recruit people to think about STEM, specifically like Latino, minorities, anyone who was there who wanted to pursue something like that. So we did do that to try to build the hub that we wanted to make Daily a little bit more like that. I honestly lost track. I don't know. Last time I checked, it was still going strong, but yeah, it's getting there.
but hey, I mean, someone's got to be there to plant the seed, like
Right.
people say like I mean, that's one part of the struggle is like starting a program, right? But then it's handing off the power to the next person, handing off the torch and keeping it going. Cause like you said, there are times when like that stuff does start, but it just dies down because nobody ever really, no one's handed the torch and is shown the ropes.
Right.
But yeah. So I mean, how okay, so actually this is gonna be a weird question because everyone we've had interviewed so far, like has wanted to do engineering strictly from the start or something like that, or they had a strict path to it. How did you, because you wanted to do nursing, so how did you come to the fact that you wanted to do nursing and then engineering? Like,
Yeah.
guide me through a little bit of that.
I'll guide you through it. So I went to school, a very small high school called Perspectives Charter School. You probably haven't heard of it because my graduating size was probably like 50 people tops. Um, when I was there wasn't a lot of like STEM focus as far as like math, science, or anything like that, or any AP courses that we could take in regards to that because it was a charter school. Um, my junior and senior year, I did debate. When I was doing debate, I was lucky enough to have two topics that were very STEM focused, or that you could spin it around where it was very STEM focused. So my junior year, I debated the space topic, which was a lot about space exploration and development. So I remember that year doing a lot of research on what was it, solar panels on the moon that you could build, or um, what is it, like wave storms or storms that are in the atmosphere that could happen that destroys the grid, or improvements to the grid through like satellites in outer space. So I was really involved in that. Then coming in my senior year, I decided to debate that again, which was the transportation topic. And then that year is when I got a lot more engineering based because I decided to run or to debate about solar roads, which is like a really cool idea where you just literally pave the roads, like all the US, with solar built roads, which would defrost themselves because it could use the same power from that it would generate electricity for homes, communities, and you could easily adapt it to change the lane sizes because you can program it. And in my junior and senior year, I didn't realize that I wanted to be an engineer, but I loved what I was doing so much. I was like, oh yeah, like I spent hours at the library. I spent hours debating. I spent a lot of times like winning and like debating a lot. And then during my junior year as well, I was doing a lot of shadowing for doctors at Northwestern, where I was going to these cadaver rooms or just following them around and really taking a look at what they were doing every day. And I really loved that as well. And a lot of the supplement programs I was doing in high school were very like focused for nursing or med school based. And then when I got to transfer over, because I am undocumented, um, Illinois itself didn't really have a lot of like financial support as far as for students that were like me. So I went straight to a two-year university to try to get my gen eds at a cheaper price. And when I was there, I was still kind of sold on the idea of nursing or probably med school. But once I kept getting further and further, I realized how much it wasn't for me, to the point where I was just like, wow, I don't think I can go 8 years into med school if I make it that far in debt for something that I don't have passion for. So I took that gap year that I mentioned where I was taking some physics, some calc, and I was like, I don't think I'm a math person, but my grades say it differently. Like I can do math. Do I like math? Now I think I do, because I would rather do math than anything else. Um, So then that's when I was like, I took a year. I spoke with a lot of my old teachers that were in high school. I spoke with teachers that friends. I spoke with anyone that I really could about like where I could go. And then I thought about my time in debate, and I was like, oh yeah, solar roads, like high speed rails. Like I was just like, yeah, you're an engineer. I'm like, you want to do engineering? And then I was just like, okay. And then I got into engineering, and I'm just like, it's hard. I don't think anyone's gonna tell you it's easy. It's really hard. It's challenging. You're gonna find 50 different ways how to do one thing. Um, Challenging. But at every single point, I haven't stopped, and I didn't want to stop at any point. I just kept going. And then that's how I figured out. I was like, whoa. I'm like, this is what I want to do. I'm here. I'm doing it, and I want to get better.
You can hear
Oh
me
yeah.
too? Good?
Hmm?
All right, cool.
Yeah, you're fine.
So I was gonna say, yeah, but I'm glad like that you have the story that you do because it's definitely a long way. It's definitely a long trip from where you started, but you see like I basically see the points at where you kind of built it along the way. It was definitely not set in stone as you went. And I guess that's what I want to communicate to
Yeah.
everyone who watches this is that you don't have to have it figured out at stage one. And it's okay to take things like day by day and then figure things out slowly. But but yeah, I'm like it's so like awesome to hear how you came around to engineering basically. It's pretty cool. Um I was gonna say,
Thanks.
did you ever consider like but this does bring the question, did you ever consider like bioengineering? Like something kind of medical related and also like engineering?
Well, here's the thing. The only reason I wanted to go into medicine was because I wanted to be wearing a white coat. And I was watching a lot of Grey's Anatomy in high school. And I was just like in love with it. Like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna, be in the cafeteria and then suddenly a body's gonna fall and I'm like my thing. I'm gonna have to save the life. I mean, um, no, I don't think I ever thought once of bioengineering because I was just like, I'm only doing like my bio classes for my white coat. That was not my thing. I'm more into like energy, the grid, optimization, all that. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Super grid.
I mean, because I totally get where you're coming from with that. Because like I feel like a lot of people also see they also see like a lot of people on TV like these hackers, these coders, and they want to do like computer science or something, and it's like totally different from what you do in school and all that. But no, I totally get where you're coming from.
I mean, I probably would have been a hacker had I seen a lot of shows like that in high school. Um, but yeah, no, CS is crazy.
Hey man, to each their own. Like I know there's
Right.
definitely stuff I couldn't do. Like personally, I tell everyone like I could probably never do like mechanical engineering. It's just like physics is hard for me as is, and I know enough of it to do what I got to do. But mechanical engineering, no way, no way, not my thing.
I was thinking about doing chemical at some point. I was just like, oh, I
Oh
love
man,
chemistry. I love Chem 1. I love Chem 2. Um, I can do chemistry. And then I realized that it's just physics. And I'm like, you know what? I'm good. I don't want to just do physics. I'm like, no. And I see what my friends are doing for like chemical engineering. And I'm like, that's terrifying. No, that's way out there. Not for me. Maybe for them.
no, I'm right there, dude. I'm right there. Like, but the difference between you and me is that chem doesn't scare you. Chem scares me. Like, I worked my butt off to get my grade in chem, and I'm like, I'm good. Like, I know what I need to know, but I don't want to do that like long term.
Oh no,
It's
I
hard. It's hard,
give it to me any day of the week. I'm like, I love chem. I love
man.
chem.
Hey, man, you're in the minority, but thank God, man, because we need more people like you.
I guess so.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, we haven't really talked too much like on a personal level, but I guess you know what? I'll ask you this question later because it'll tie into one of the questions I'm gonna ask you. But
Yeah.
so we're gonna start with the second question because you kind of already told me your story about how you got into engineering. So second question is, what impact do you feel that like studying engineering or studying STEM has had on you as a person, mentally, academically, in all aspects?
Yeah. When I was doing nursing and my med stuff, um, that's when I had my worst GPA. And before coming to UIC, my GPA was worse then. After going through engineering and everything, I definitely realized that if I'm not under pressure and if I feel like I don't have enough time within the day to finish something, I'm not producing the best quality of my work, which it shouldn't be like that. But like, under stress and under pressure is when I work best because I'm able to actually zone out everything around me and just start focusing on what I have to do and knocking it all down as quickly as possible. Studying engineering has made me a lot more efficient on how I study, how I do things. I don't just go to Walmart anymore or Target and look at something. I start like trying to figure out, oh, I wonder how they made this. I wonder how why they decided to put this there. Oh, I wonder why they didn't do this instead. Um, I constantly am thinking when I don't want to, especially during this like whole winter break. I'm just like, I'm like, you can program these lights outside the house to do this with Arduino. This will be cool. You can change that. I'm like, yeah, yeah. And before that, I wouldn't think twice about it. I would just, keep walking and be like, oh, that's cool. That's some light. They're cool, I guess. And I keep walking. Engineering just like I don't know, it like completely changed my mind. I feel like I'm a lot more open about it now. Uh, yeah, that
Yeah,
challenge.
I I I love the way you say that too, because I also like did the same thing for the first, and maybe it was different for me because I had to learn the ropes a little more, and I definitely had a way rocky start getting like decent or okay at math and science. But once I sort of got into it and I got comfortable with doing it more, I like also do the same thing, and it's a blessing and a curse. Like you look at things and you're like you kind of understand in some ways how it works, but then there's small things you don't, and you get curious about it, and then you think about things that you already know how they work. You're like, oh, I can improve this, I can use this like that. And like you're saying with Arduinos and stuff, I do that all the time. And like it's so funny because like I start doing little projects on like my family's table, and there's like little parts everywhere, and then they're like, come clean this up. And yeah, I like it's funny, but I totally get what you're talking about. It's but yeah, it's awesome.
For sure.
Um, but yeah, so now we're gonna go on to the third question, which is how can we make STEM more accessible to younger audiences and encourage them to pursue a career in STEM, and maybe touch upon how STEM ties in with minorities and underrepresented groups. And what I didn't know about you is that you are undocumented. So how does that play into your I guess STEM or engineering life per se?
Yeah. Um, ugh, that's a pretty hard topic. um, I guess I'll start off with my undocumented stuff. That bag.
No, go ahead. Yeah,
Um,
start out with whatever you want to do with first.
Yeah. So especially like students that are undocumented, at least 3 to 4 years back, when there weren't resources for them to get like student aid for them to go to university. Like for example, UIC typically costs like somewhere around like $8,000-9,000 a semester, right? When I graduated high school, I had to pay the sticker price. There was no financial aid available for me. Now, just go back a year ago, we are eligible for some sort of financial aid, which means it does bring the price a little bit down. Obviously, it doesn't cover all of it, but there's other resources for you to get that covered. As an undocumented student, a lot of the students who are not like at their A level throughout high school and are not scoring crazy like SAT scores or ACT scores, they are pushed through a pipeline where they are going to end up going to community colleges. When they go to community colleges, the biggest problem, and even that itself is already a big problem because you should already have these students thinking they want to be engineers even at an earlier age, at an earlier school level, right? But from what I experienced once I got into community college, there wasn't a lot of resources for people like me to be experienced to it, exposed to it, or to even think themselves as an engineer. I think when you think of an engineer, you think about like the stereotypical, like it's a white guy with glasses in a lab, or an Apple sitting there like controlling the world, or a Tesla, right? It's Elon Musk. It's that person. It's not you. Um, and that's exactly why we built the engineering club at Daily, because I felt like if there is some sort of backbone or some sort of support system, you're more likely to see yourself in that. I met a lot of people in my Calc 2 class specifically who are still at UIC with me now, who transitioned with me. And it's because of those people that I think I'm still in engineering. One of my best friends in UIC is Laura. And we talked about the struggle about going to school, about how we do want to pursue this like really rigorous major, but there's problems at home where, like, for example, we had a midterm for Calc 2 and she needed to stay over at my house the whole night so we can just, sometimes it just happens. You have to pull out all nighter just to make sure that you get the grade you want and you deserve. And the conversation where she had to talk with her parents about, hey, like, I need to stay at my friend's house to study. Her parents, like traditionally Mexican parents or just maybe minority parents, I'm not sure. Women aren't really allowed to be outside of their home for like long periods of time. In engineering, there's times where you're going to be stuck at the library till 2 a.m. You're going to put a lot of work. It's just inevitable. And people in my situation don't have that experience or can't relate that to their parents, especially if they're not engineers, so they haven't been through college, so they don't understand. It's like, no, I'm not going to school just to play all day. It's literally has so much work to do. And that's what we connected with. That's where we started thinking alike. And I was like, yeah. And then I was like, oh yeah, I'm also gay, which is also another layer to my like complexity. So, that just throws me for a spin. I didn't know people like me were in engineering, right? And even if I go through UIC now, we are like super, super, super minorities where you're like gay, Latinos, like we don't exist in the engineering space for the most part. There's a lot of us there, but we're just really spread out to the point where you can't see us. Um, so being more inclusive in the way that we speak, the way that we talk to each other in class, the way we see each other, that is also beneficial for everybody. But I definitely think that you need to start off probably like kindergarten as early as possible, allowing people and students and kids to just like think outside the box, to challenge what's not stereotypically seen, because they have a really bright input. They can see a lot of things that we don't see, um, and they can get pushed towards that route, right? Just because you haven't seen someone like you do it doesn't mean it's not someone like you out there doing it. And that's what had to be pushed through my brain, because I couldn't see it, but now I'm like, I see it now. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll have to pay it forward some way in the future, maybe to a couple other people. But yeah, you know.
No, yeah. I think like I mean, you pretty much hit like all the nails on the head that I was kind of thinking of when I would personally think to myself like how would I answer this question? But yeah, um I guess first I'll sort of respond to the first part of that, which you said like was mostly about how being undocumented affects your college experience and your STEM and engineering experience. So yeah, like funds and um, basically just getting the ability to go to college. Uh, that in itself is already hard for a lot of students, and being undocumented, I'm sure, doesn't make that any easier. Which is like um, why we're glad that programs like DACA do exist and stuff like that. But um, but yeah, like the part with I guess like the cultural standards or norms, but basically the parts where yeah, like it's understood, I guess, in Mexican culture that you do your studies and you go home and you spend time with your family, and you're not supposed to be out too late, away from your family, because it's just, I don't know, it's tradition. And especially women and girls, I know it's just a thing in Mexican tradition. It just happens sometimes, like Latino tradition in general. uh, um but yeah, it's something that you have to like communicate to your parents, like, hey, yeah, I do have things to do. I'm not there to mess around. I'm there to like do my work, get it done, and yes, it does take this long. There are things that are this intense. But yeah, like, cause I remember when I first started going to college, I didn't understand that well, and then I'd be taking the train home, like, super late, like 1 AM, like 12, like midnight sometimes, or I'd just be asking like, "Hey, I gotta stay at a friend's dorm because I don't feel safe, like, going home, like, any later than this, or can you come pick me up?" And then, of course, they'd be a little mad and stuff, but, bless my parents because I've gotten this far. But yeah, for sure. Like it does happen. It happens and it's hard to explain to them, but thank God to the parents that do like understand us and just, see it through because yeah, like you said, we're there to get our stuff done. Um but yeah, have any other comments on that?
No, I mean like it's I think everybody, especially everybody at ship or can relate to that at some point because a lot of us, are engineers. A lot of our parents haven't graduated for university or done something as rigorous as engineering. So because my mom did nursing in Mexico, and I'm just like, when I was taking chemistry, I was asking her questions. She's like, "Oh, we didn't really learn that. We just learned like the names of the elements." I'm like, "So eighth grade chemistry." And I was like, at the university, I'm like, I don't think you understand, but she didn't get it either. But yeah, I mean, we're fighting that fight right now, right? Like breaking down like machismo or like toxic masculinity, whatever's going around right
No,
now.
yeah. I mean, I tell everyone about it myself. I say that like, hey, that's one of the things I kind of want to kind of like always advocate for, that I don't like the machismo in our culture, but it's changing. It's changing day by day, and we're definitely bringing a lot more attention to it. So I'm glad to hear that you brought that up.
Thanks.
um, but yeah, I guess we'll go to last question. Any additional advice you'd like to give to people who are currently studying STEM or wish to pursue a career in STEM, or are just interested in it in general? Like, what's some advice or something you could tell them?
Yeah. Assuming you've decided that STEM is the route that you want to take, once you're there, I think the number one thing you have to do is find a support system, whether that be through student organizations or not, or just being outgoing and meeting people in your classes. It is very critical, especially for this last semester during the pandemic. I feel like everyone in the US, especially students, know what it takes to succeed in your classroom now. We were kind of blind to it for the most part until we got here. And you really need a good solid group of 5 or 10 people that are in your classes so that you are always on the same page and you're always understanding, because it's so easy to let a couple classes slide so you can sleep in, and then next thing you know you're like 3 chapters behind, and there's a midterm tomorrow and you need to figure out how to do all these problems the next day. If you don't have a group of people that are willing to give you some of that time that they have for that night to help study, then you probably won't make it unless you're like Elon Musk. But you do need a group of people. You need a group of people to be there just to say hi to in the morning, or just someone that can like answer a simple physics question or something from like EC 115, right? Like sometimes you forget, and it's a lot quicker to text someone than to look through old notes or to look in the book, and it's gonna happen. Don't go at it alone. Definitely don't. Like it's build yourself a community, find a community that fits you, find somewhere where you feel like you can be yourself, and just go for it. Because it's a ride, but it's easier to hold on when you have a lot of people pushing you up.
Yeah, totally agree. Like, I think that's something that I also kind of feel like, I kind of feel bad for, that a lot of freshmen are starting in this COVID like pandemic, like their first years of college in engineering too as well. Like I bet it's got to be super hard. I don't even know if I would have been able to do it like myself, just because that was such a huge part of like my first year at UIC and like my first 2 years even. It was just building that circle, building that community of people that I could trust and that I could kind of communicate with in my classes. And it was not even just about my classes, but like just as friends, really, just to kind of build that social circle. Because you know, I know we're engineers, but we also need time to like just talk to people too, because we're people too. So
For
you
people
know,
too. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, people forget that. Sometimes they look at us and they think, oh, engineer, like, oh, he's a robot, like, he just does math problems all day or something. Like, he doesn't know how to talk to people. But yeah.
Yeah. That's sometimes true, maybe not, but
No, there's moments. There's moments.
there's moments where you're just like, I'd rather be at home doing some math problems. Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely feel you. Like, if I was a freshman now and I was jumping into an engineering program, I don't know how I'd be holding on. I honestly don't, because that CS 107, like Physics 1, all in one semester, I'll be like, oh, good luck, guys. Weed out classes are real this semester.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's why I always tell people, like, especially now during the pandemic, like, if you guys need someone to talk to, like, reach out to me. Like, I always tell my sister, because my sister is actually, she's a sophomore now, and she transferred into mechanical engineering. So now she's doing that engineering online thing. And, like, for her, like, she had her first semester entirely, like, in person at UIC, but then she got transferred remote the next semester. And now, like, this has been a majority of her college experience. So now I guess, it sucks. It sucks, but that's why I
Tell her
always try to
to
help people out.
get in contact with Karina. She's doing mechanical and she's a sophomore too, so she can find a group there. But I like, how is that though? Because like I'm the only engineer like in my whole family. Like my brother and sister are older than me. They didn't even finish college, and they're definitely not engineers. So how is it? Because I know your older brother's a electrical, right? Or he has a master's.
Yeah, he's actually going for his master's right now. He did his undergrad in engineering physics at UIUC, and then he went to UIC, and now he's at Johns Hopkins for like remote for electrical engineering, mostly focusing on like aerospace stuff, so space and like kind of flight systems and stuff. But so I guess that's pretty
That's cool.
interesting. Yeah, I mean, totally not my thing. I know you, like you said, your focus is like power and energy in the grid. Um, I personally I like electrical engineering. I don't know if I could do it to that big of a scale. So I applaud you for that. Hats off to you. Oh my gosh.
Oh
But
no.
yeah, my sister, she was first doing bioengineering, and then she realized she didn't want to do that, so she transferred into mechanical engineering. So she's doing mechanical engineering right now. And yours truly is computer engineering. I'm a senior last semester, and emphasis right now is mostly software engineering. So I mostly I don't know. I have a lot of experience with embedded systems and but I'm learning a little more. So
Oh,
I'm
like my face just changed. I felt it change. You said embedded systems, and that was like traumatizing for me.
Oh no, you didn't like that class?
No comment. No, it wasn't.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. You don't have to tell me that part.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
It's
I mean,
not
I did
about that
good. I
class.
got a B, but I mean, would I take it again? No.
It's a hard class, I'll tell you that.
It was.
But yeah. So any closing comments, any last minute comments you want to tell anyone or anything you want to say to the people?
Yeah, if all my friends don't watch this and like my video, and it's the most watched video in this whole series, I will be upset.
You hear
That's
that?
all.
Throw
Yeah.
a like, throw a subscribe, throw a
Mm,
comment, show some
something.
love. You already know. But yeah, all right. Then I guess that's the end of this interview, and show some love to the channel, guys.
Thanks, Fabian.
But yeah, no problem, man. Have a great night.
You too. Bye.
See ya.